Noah Jensen had long learned to expect little from life except hard work, quiet nights, and the never-ending responsibility of raising his 5-year-old daughter, Emma. As a single dad, every minute was accounted for. Meals, work at the local auto shop, daycare runs, bedtime stories. That Friday evening, as rain fell in heavy sheets and the sky threatened thunder, Noah pulled into the dimly lit grocery store parking lot with Emma fast asleep in the back seat. He moved quickly through the aisles, grabbing milk, cereal, and a box of macaroni Emma loved, eager to get home before the storm worsened. But as he returned to his truck, fumbling with his keys under the flickering streetlight, something caught his eye. A figure huddled alone on the far end of the lot, slumped against the curb, soaked to the bone. The woman wore nurse's scrubs that clung to her from the rain, her long hair plastered to her face, and though she said nothing, the way her shoulders trembled betrayed a deep, silent grief. Noah's first instinct was to get in the truck and drive away. He'd been through too much to get involved in someone else's mess, but something made him pause. The same instinct that kicked in whenever Emma cried in her sleep or reached for his hand. He stepped closer. "Mom, are you all right?" he asked, voice cautious. She didn't look up, only muttered a near whisper, "Please, just leave me." That might have been the end of it, but Noah noticed her hands trembling, not from fear but cold. "I've got a warm truck and a dry blanket," he said. "It's not much, but it's better than this. You don't have to talk. Just get out of the rain." For several seconds, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she turned her face toward him. Red, rimmed eyes, rain-mixed tears, and something deeper, like she was barely hanging on. "I'm sorry," she murmured, as if apologizing for existing. "I'm Rachel." Noah nodded gently. "No. Come on, Rachel. You're not alone tonight." He helped her up and wrapped his jacket around her thin frame before guiding her to the truck. Emma stirred in her booster seat as they climbed in, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, who's that?" she asked softly, eyeing the woman beside her. Noah glanced at Rachel, who gave the tiniest smile. "This is our new friend." She was stuck in the rain. Emma, still groggy, leaned over and offered her a half-eaten fruit snack. "You can have this," she said sweetly. Rachel blinked, lips trembling. "Thank you," she whispered. Noah drove them through the stormy streets, heart unsure but strangely at peace. He didn't know who Rachel was or what had led her to that curb, but he knew a wounded soul when he saw one. And something in her eyes, despite all the sadness, still held a spark. It wasn't much, but sometimes hope starts small, like a stranger offering shelter in the rain, or a child sharing a piece of candy with someone who needed more than she could say. The morning sun filtered gently through the blinds of Noah's modest two-bedroom home, casting soft stripes of light across the couch, where Rachel lay curled beneath a borrowed blanket. Her eyes fluttered open to the smell of brewing coffee and the distant sound of a child's laughter. For a moment, she forgot where she was, until the faint ache in her limbs reminded her of yesterday's rain and the days of despair before that. She sat up slowly, brushing tangled hair from her face, only to find Emma in the living room floor, building a tower of colorful blocks and humming to herself. When she noticed Rachel watching, she beamed brightly. "Hi, Miss Rachel! You didn't run away!" The unexpected sweetness of the greeting brought a smile to Rachel's lips and a tightness to her throat. "Not yet," she said softly. In the kitchen, Noah was pouring coffee into two mismatched mugs. He glanced her way and offered a warm, if slightly uncertain, smile. "Didn't think you'd still be here," he said. Rachel stood slowly, wrapping the blanket around her. "I didn't mean to overstay. I should go." But Noah raised a hand, his voice gentle. "You didn't overstay. You needed help. That's all there is to it." Her eyes dropped to the floor, and she hesitated before murmuring, "I'm not used to anyone offering kindness without expecting something in return." She explained, slowly and carefully, how things had unraveled, how the hospital, where she worked, shut down with 2 days' notice due to financial corruption, how her landlord didn't care about her situation and forced her out the next week, and how she'd spent the last few days sleeping in her car and skipping meals to save what little money she had. Noah listened without judgment, his heart heavy with the weight of her story. She spoke with shame, as if her survival was something to apologize for. When she finished, there was a long silence. Then Noah set the mug down in front of her. "Stay as long as you need," he said simply. "We've got a couch, a roof, and Emma thinks you're magic, so you're kind of stuck with us." Rachel let out a laugh, small, cracked, and full of disbelief. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. The next few days unfolded gently. Rachel offered to help around the house, cooking meals and tidying up while Noah was at work. She braided Emma's hair in the mornings and sat with her during cartoons. She even found a part-time opening at a small clinic downtown. A few hours a week to start. Bit by bit, her color returned. The shadows in her eyes faded, though they hadn't disappeared entirely. At night, when the house was quiet, she sometimes stared at the ceiling and wondered if it was real. But in the laughter at dinner, in the kindness of a man who expected nothing, and in the unconditional acceptance of a little girl, Rachel began, for the first time in ages, to believe she might have a place in the world again. Weeks passed, and Rachel gradually became a steady presence in Noah and Emma's lives. She fit into their quiet rhythm, as if she'd always belonged. Waking up early to make pancakes with Emma, sharing soft conversations with Noah over coffee, and slowly rebuilding her life with cautious hope. The clinic where she worked part-time quickly recognized her skill and compassion, offering her more hours and encouraging her to apply for a full-time role. Though grateful, Rachel remained hesitant, haunted by the weight of her past and the fear that everything could fall apart again. Noah noticed the way she flinched when bills arrived in the mail or how her eyes grew distant when people asked too many questions about where she'd been. He didn't pry, but he was always there, ready with quiet reassurances and unwavering kindness. One crisp Saturday morning, just as Rachel was folding Emma's laundry, a knock sounded at the front door. She opened it to find a sharply dressed man holding a thick envelope. "Rachel Turner," he asked. When she nodded, he handed it to her and said, "You've been served." Her heart dropped. The letter was from the legal office representing the defunct hospital she'd once worked for. She was being sued for negligence in a case she hadn't even known existed, a paperwork error blamed on her after the facility shut down. Panic surged through her, her breath catching in her throat as all the fear she'd tried to bury rushed back. She told Noah everything that night, tears staining her cheeks as she confessed her shame, convinced the lawsuit would ruin the small bit of peace she'd found. But Noah didn't recoil. He didn't doubt her. Instead, he picked up his phone and called a local attorney he'd once helped with a busted transmission. "You saved my car," the man chuckled. "I'll return the favor." Over the next few days, Rachel watched in stunned silence as Noah stood by her side through legal meetings, paperwork, and anxious waiting. He never once questioned her integrity. Emma, sensing her worry, wrapped her small arms around Rachel's waist every night and whispered, "You're safe here." That quiet declaration meant more than Rachel could say. When the lawyer finally called with the news that the case had been dropped for lack of evidence, Rachel wept, not from fear, but from overwhelming relief. That evening, as they sat around the dinner table with Emma laughing over mashed potatoes and Noah refilling Rachel's glass of iced tea, a warmth settled in her chest. Not just gratitude, but something deeper. She had tried to run from her past, convinced it made her unlovable. But Noah had met her mess with mercy, her silence with understanding. And through it all, he never let go of her hand. As she looked at him across the table, she realized she hadn't just been surviving anymore, she was healing. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone in that. Maybe Noah was healing too, and maybe they were doing it together. Spring bloomed quietly in the small town, with cherry blossoms dotting the sidewalks, and laughter drifting from open windows. Rachel had now been living with Noah and Emma for over 3 months, but it felt like a lifetime had passed since that cold, rainy night in the grocery store parking lot. The house, once a temporary shelter, now felt like home. The walls held pictures Emma had drawn of the three of them, stick figures under bright suns and rainbows, labeled Daddy and Miss Rachel, though lately Emma had taken to calling her Mama Rachel without prompting. Each time Rachel heard it, her heart swelled with something she once believed she'd never feel again: belonging. The lawsuit was behind her. Her job at the clinic had become permanent, and for the first time in years, she had stability. But more than that, she had love. She saw it in the way Noah looked at her when she read to Emma on the couch, in how he fixed her coffee just the way she liked it without asking, in the soft silences they shared during late night talks over laundry or dishes. And yet, a quiet fear still lingered within her, a whisper that this happiness couldn't last, that she didn't deserve it. One evening, while Emma was asleep and a soft rain tapped the windows, Noah found Rachel standing barefoot in the kitchen, staring out at the backyard. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, leaning on the counter. She turned, a sad smile on her lips. "I keep waiting for someone to take all this away, for the other shoe to drop." He stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "No one's taking anything," he said gently. "You've built your place here, brick by brick. You deserve this, Rachel. You deserve us." Her eyes shimmered with tears, but this time they didn't fall. Instead, she reached for his hand, and in the quiet of that kitchen, something unspoken passed between them. A promise. The next morning, Emma came bounding into their room with her usual morning energy, clutching a crayon drawing of the three of them, holding hands under a bright sun. "Can we be a real family now?" she asked. Rachel and Noah exchanged a look, laughter and emotion caught in their throats. "We already are," Noah said, pulling them both into a hug. That weekend, they planted a small flower garden in the backyard, each bloom a symbol of new beginnings. Rachel knelt in the soil beside Emma, while Noah hammered a small wooden sign Emma had painted, "Our Happy Home." As the sun set behind them and laughter echoed in the air, Rachel realized that hope hadn't just returned. It had taken root. What began as a chance encounter in the rain had become the beginning of a life rebuilt not on perfection, but on love, resilience, and the simple truth that sometimes the family you need most finds you when you least expect it.